Hey guys, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies.
Relax, be cool, cause if you don't, you'll act like a fool, so be cool.
In commemoration of the upcoming sequel, F9, I'm binging the entirety of the Fast Saga. Already got my reviews out for the first 3 films. Now we get to the one that made me a die-hard fan of the franchise. When I binged this a few years back, I stood fast by the belief that the franchise didn't actually get good until this one. The car stunts got crazier, the action became lovably over the top, and I started to understand how and why the franchise has been going on for as long as it has. Believe me, I used to be one of those people on the outside looking in, going, oh my god, when will this franchise end? How many times have I said franchise now? But it is actually coming to a close. Yeah, by the 11th film. So for you haters out there, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, so shout it. As for the rest of us, well, I think we can all agree that we don't want to see any more Hobbs and Shaw. Already have my review out for that one too. Thank God, I don't have to see it again. Man, I am so happy to get back into the franchise at this point, so let's get into it. This is my honest opinion of Fast and Furious. Set 5 years after the events of the first film, Dom Toretto, played by Vin Diesel, has been hiding from the law in the Dominican Republic, but knows the feds will catch up to him before long. In an effort to protect his comrades, especially his lover, Letty Ortiz, played by Michelle Rodriguez, he leaves them and ventures out on his own. Months later, Dom receives a phone call from his sister Mia, played by Jordana Brewster, that Letty has been murdered. Returning home, he sets his sights on looking for the person responsible for killing her. Unbeknownst to him, Brian O'Connor, played by the late Paul Walker, now a federal agent, is also working to find the man who killed Letty, but Dom is not happy to have his help.
Letty was my friend too.
You weren't anyone's friend.
Yo, can you guys talk about this later?
Oh yeah, that's the ticket. Make no mistake, this movie has some glaring flaws, but this is how a Fast and Furious movie should be. The opening is very reminiscent of the very first movie's opening scene, but done in a much more gripping way. Rodriguez is practically the star attraction, jumping from Dom's car to an oil tanker for the gang to steal, hanging on for dear life on a puny ladder, all while keeping out of sight of the truck driver. But of course, it wouldn't be a thrill ride if something didn't go wrong.
Oh shit!
This scene is everything I love about the Fast and Furious movies. Over-the-top solutions to problems that shouldn't be solved in the perfect manner in which they are. But you'll never convince me that this isn't the fun of a Fast and Furious movie. Don't get me wrong, there's a few CGI bits that didn't feel like they needed to be CGI, but I wasn't on the set and I don't know the filmmakers, so I can't ask why the truck flipping over wasn't practical. Yes, when it rolls, of course, that needed to be CG. But the actual flipping of it, I have questions. But that's a nitpick to an otherwise amazing opening. Really, I think most of the racing scenes are done better this time. Yeah, I criticized how there's too much CG in Too Fast, but here it's a bit more subtle and far more visceral. The practical stunts are cooler, those definitely won me over, especially in the climax. It's basically an early Mad Max Fury Road, and it all takes place in a mine shaft. Pretty sweet setting.
Still a bus there.
But what I absolutely adore is how unshackled Dom is. In the first film, it's revealed that Dom has a temper problem that he's been doing his very best to keep a lid on. One could argue that lid was Letty. At the very least, the writer was smart enough to ask himself what would cause Dom to become that ruthless monster that he's been trying to hold back. Letty's death would be a good excuse. To see that side of Dom when he's threatening that dude is downright scary. And then we get to, what?
What you looking at, nutsack?
Apparently, I'm looking at Greg Sipes. As in...
Whose voice does you do?
Yours, fool.
What's your real voice sound like, though?
What are you talking about, Beast Boy? This is my Real's voice.
Weird.
And he has a foot fetish?
Papa Dwight wants you to take off your shoes. So beautiful. Oh, Dwight likes his foot a lot.
Want to drop a brow?
Is there a problem here? No?
And baby Gal Gadot! And she plays a character that shuts Greg Sipes up!
See you later, punk.
Did Greg Sipes just call Paul Walker a punk? Motherfucker, you get your money by whoring out your Beast Boy voice to sing about waffles!
Waffles, 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 waffles.
Who's the real punk here? Shut the fuck up! 5 out of 5. That's it. Review over. The perfect movie exists. Time to pack it in, Hollywood. You ain't doing better. Time for the human race to retire because we have achieved nirvana. Enlightenment. Are they the same thing? I don't know. I don't care. But that's the greatest achievement of all mankind. All future artistic endeavors are pointless now. Goodbye. Movies had a great run and peaked in 2009. Mai Tais for everyone. But for real, this had me in stitches. I completely forgot that Greg Sipes was in this, and it absolutely kills me. But much as I love the opening, the truth of the matter is it does drag out the beginning. Very similar to Too Fast, the opening is just a glorified excuse to tell us where these characters are in this universe. The difference here being that at least in Too Fast, they got that information out before the big race sequence. Whereas this one is all action. Then we get to the actual plot point that leads to the meat of the story where Dom leaves Letty. Didn't need the opening chase scene to establish that. Even the justification of Dom leaving Letty is kind of weak sauce, because in the end, Letty makes a good point.
Dom, how long have we been doing this? And now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's too dangerous?
Yup, and I'm sure in the 5 years since y'all have been on the run, the authorities have never come close to catching you. I guess I can understand Dom's position. In the first movie, he and Letty seemed like their relationship was closer to a teenage fling than an actual mature romance. In 5 years, that's clearly changed. Letty ain't that 16-year-old hottie that he enjoyed bonking with. This was a woman that he genuinely loved and didn't want to drag her through the muck. What gets me is that it takes him 5 years to come to this conclusion, and the events that triggered this decision didn't feel too compelling to me. By the way, yo, what's up, Han?
Heard they're doing some crazy shit in Tokyo.
Now I want to make something clear. I know it kind of sounds like I'm just crapping all over this movie, but that opening chase scene is an adrenaline rush, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But I gotta be honest about how it makes the movie flow. The chase scene in the beginning with Brian probably goes on a bit longer than it needs to, but I do have to tease Paul Walker a bit. Hey, Brian got a grown-up haircut! Anyway, he's chasing down a Hispanic dude. Again, it probably goes on longer than it needs to, but I did like this move. The unfortunate truth behind most of Brian's scenes, really, is that they completely neutered his character. One of the best aspects of Too Fast was how Brian's character was unhinged. He was a wild card and he knew it. He was cocky in a way that seemed natural and was by all accounts lovable. Here, he's back to being a straightforward cop-type character who's all professional. You see bits and pieces of his personality when he's defying his superiors, but it's not the same thing. He's too everyman now.
At least we know you can't beat me straight up.
I didn't know there were any rules.
To make matters even worse, the relationship between him and Mia is really forced. It starts off fine enough. Mia's still mad at him for lying about who he was, his direct involvement of breaking up their family and living apart. All that is fine.
I'm so sorry that you had to come into my home and pretend to love me. I'm so sorry that you ripped my family apart. I'm very sorry that that was hard for you.
But by the end of it, their romantic chemistry is right back on track without any real reason. Brian didn't have to work for it. He didn't do anything in particular to win her back or even to regain her trust. It's rushed and forced, which could have easily been remedied in the sequels. But hey, can't have two attractive people on screen and not suck face. What do you think this is? High drama? Speaking of which, I totally forgot about the subplot where Giselle had the hots for Dom. You want to know why I forgot about it? Because it's contrived and stupid. Don't get me wrong, in social circles like this, I can see the appeal. But there's a few reasons why this doesn't work. One, this movie killed off Letty, played by Michelle Rodriguez, an established tough girl in the action genre, and was a character that was fridged. Hey, I think I finally understand the context of that word. Point is, just as Letty was becoming a more interesting and prominent character in that opening sequence, in comes future Wonder Woman. What exactly did Dom do to warrant Giselle to pounce? There's plenty of muscular dudes driving souped-up cars. What sets Dom apart from the rest of the alphas? I should be grateful that Giselle never truly replaces Letty, and doubly grateful that this subplot goes nowhere, but in the grand scheme of things, it was a pointless subplot to introduce at all. I guess it's meant to showcase just how committed Dom is to Letty, and is meant to highlight how their relationship truly wasn't just some nothing fling, but we didn't need the reinforcement of how Dom felt about her. The entire plot does a fine enough job on its own. I also don't like it when Giselle looks so utterly defeated when Dom rejects her. I can't imagine a woman like that working around biceps for brains men all day and night would be so easily rattled by rejection. So, shame on the writing for making Godot look like a dainty prom queen who got rejected by the star quarterback.
That doesn't sound anything like me.
But now I have to talk about the most egregious offense in this movie, Braga, and his importance. Most of the movie is, or should be, about avenging Letty. That's the character that the audience feels for the most. So, why do we have to throw in the subplot about Braga? I get it, he's the puppet master who orchestrated Letty's death, but there's almost no point in that. Who truly cares about the heroin that he's bringing into the country? Who really cares if he gets caught when we want to see the henchman dude get his comeuppance? Or better yet, why couldn't it have been Braga who killed her? I gotta tell you, even after seeing this movie once before, I didn't remember who the big bad of the story was because it was unfocused. Trying to be more complex than it needed to be, which is a shame.
What did you say? I said only pussies run Nitro meth.
In the moment while you're watching it, it is a thrill ride. But it's also one of those movies where the moment you sit down and start dissecting the characters and the plot, the worse it starts to become. And these problems are what hold it back from being a legit good film. As it stands though, and what the franchise is known for, it's a mindless action romp. To expect a complex story is to set yourself up for disappointment. The action is great, and that's where it counts. But the story, yeah, it's forgettable. My honest rating for Fast and Furious, a strong 3 out of 5.
What's your code, Brian?
I'm working on it.
Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there. Hope to see you soon. One final caveat as you guys move on with your day, I've decided to test my luck at a Patreon, so please consider supporting the channel. No obligations of course, no content is gated off, but any and all contributions would mean a lot. Link in the description. Have a great one, folks.